Hey everyone, this is Stacy with the Aurora Public Library. Welcome to part 2 of my homemade watercolor tutorial. The materials you will need are thick paper. Watercolor works the best, however sketch paper and cardstock are also great options. Our homemade watercolors we made from part 1, specifically blue and purple, green, red, and yellow. Clean water, a paintbrush if you have it, but if not, sponges and Q-tips will work great. I will be using those for this tutorial. Sharpies to fill in the silhouette, and either a fine tip Sharpie or a pen for the small details. And lastly, table salt. Similar to the first method, I will be showing you how to paint a landscape with the silhouette and how to paint 2 different kinds of succulents. So let's get started. First, we will take our bit of sponge and dip it into our blue paint. You'll notice how quickly the sponge soaks up the color. Starting in the top left corner, begin to fill in the corner with your blue. Taking your next bit of sponge, dip it into the purple color. Starting at the very bottom right, begin to fill in that corner. Work your way up into the blue to blend. It's important not to blend down as we don't want to lose too much of our purple. Taking your salt, pour a little bit into your hand. Carefully sprinkle this on top of your wet paint and let it sit until dry. Salt is a really fun and inexpensive technique. The salt crystals actually soak up the liquid from the paint, leaving you with this really cool effect where small areas of your paint are lighter than others. Once it's dry, wipe up all the excess salt so you'll be working again with a clean slate. Taking your pencil, we will begin to outline our silhouette, starting with a horizontal line across the bottom of the page. I like to leave a lot of sky to show off the cool salt technique we used. Next, we will draw a tree on the left side of the page. Start by creating both sides of the trunk. Split the trunk so 2 thick branches begin. If you're unfamiliar with drawing trees, you'll do this same splitting process for all the branches. I will provide some close-ups to show you what I'm doing. After drawing the first branch, you will split it 2 ways, you will split one of those 2 ways, and so on and so on. You will repeat this process of splitting the branches until you are satisfied with the results. Moving forward, you'll start the bench by drawing 2 vertical rectangles to create the bench legs and general shape. When you are sketching your park bench, try to keep your lines as straight as you can. If you're more comfortable using a ruler or a straight edge, that's perfectly fine. I eyeballed mine as I prefer my watercolors to be a little looser in form. Now we will draw the seat of the bench. This rectangle will be slightly longer and thicker than those that will make up the back. When drawing the back of the bench, try to keep the board thickness and spacing the same for object consistency. Once satisfied with your tree and bench sketches, we will begin outlining our drawing in Sharpie. I started with the tree since this is the most time-consuming part of our painting. With the Sharpie, work your way up the tree, filling the branches as you go. I then used my fine tip Sharpie to add points my bigger Sharpie couldn't, as well as to fix any lines I missed earlier. Taking your bigger Sharpie, we'll fill in the ground before starting the bench. After finishing the ground, fill in the boards we made for the bench. I used my big Sharpie to fill them and my fine tip to add corners to each board. And voila, our park silhouette is finished. Be sure to carefully and slowly peel back the tape as to not rip any of the paper. The next technique I will be showing you is how to paint succulents. I'll be showing you two different kinds. For our first succulent, we'll dip our Q-tip in the green paint and paint a green oval for the base of the plant. Making sure you have enough paint, we'll add a smaller oval at the top left of our base. For mine, I stacked 2 more on top, however you can stack as many or as little ovals as you'd like. Do the same for the right side of the base. To add some variance to the succulent, we will use a wet on wet technique and add some yellow paint to the upper left side of the base, as well as the circles stacked on the left. Similarly, and always with a clean Q-tip, add a little bit of blue to the bottom right of the base. Be sure to include the blue in the rightmost stack. Be careful not to add too much color. My blue came out a little bit stronger than I liked, so I lightly went back over it with more green. We will let this dry completely before we start to add the flowers. Taking a new clean Q-tip, dip it into our red paint, and at the top of the left stack, add a 3-point flower. Do the same for the right. After the flowers dry, we will take our fine tip Sharpie or pen to add our details. For the flowers, begin with 2 petals starting from the bottom middle and ending in between your painted points. Add 3 petals behind the ones we just drew, loosely following the red paint. Finally, add small black dots on the inside of the plant and on the outside lines to create your succulent's thorns. And here we have our first finished succulent. For our second succulent, we will start by creating a slightly curved line with our green paint. On its right, follow with a blue line. Grabbing our green Q-tip, we will create a third line curved in the opposite direction with the leftover paint from earlier. This line should still be green, but much lighter. Dipping the Q-tip back into the green paint, we will create our fourth and final line, successfully making our succulent shape. To create more variance in our greens, use your yellow paint over the light green line. While the paint is still wet, go over the 2 middle lines with more green just one last time. Add this green very lightly so that the colors don't become overpowered. Because some of my lines blended together at the bottom, I used a little bit more green just to close it all off. We'll let this dry before we start our flower so we don't mix any colors that shouldn't be mixed. Using a new Q-tip and our purple paint, we will add a flower to the top of the succulent. Similar to before, we will create a basic shape using 4 points as opposed to 3. We will add the petal details after this dries. Now that our purple flower has dried, we will add petals to the flower using our fine-tip Sharpie or pen. This will be the same design as the petals before. You'll start with the 2 up front, however, you will also add a third in the middle behind the first 2. Lastly, we will add small black dashes to the green lines in order to give our succulent thorns. Unfortunately, my camera stopped filming for this part, so I can only show you the last few thorn additions. And here are both of our finished succulents. Be sure to remove any tape slowly to avoid ripping the paper. So thank you for watching this video. If you followed along for any of these tutorials, please leave a picture of what you did below. I would love to see what you guys came up with. Thank you. Bye.